Yes, good morning. Good morning from Quebec. Good afternoon, good evening. Sadly, not good night. Our Korean colleague.
Bonsoir.
Um, Excuse me to the organizers. How can I turn off the simultaneous translation while I'm speaking? Um, okay, please do that for me. It is my honor and my great pleasure to moderate this mayor's panel on this opening day of GCEF 2021. GCEF has played a key role in mobilizing SSE actors and organizations internationally since its inception in 2013. In less than a decade, GCEF has become a voice for the social and solidarity economy globally, calling upon local, regional, and national governments to recognize the vital role played by the SSE in meeting socioeconomic and environmental challenges common to countries throughout the world. While many challenges remain, today SSE is recognized for its contribution to a just transition, assuring greater income and gender equality, sustainable employment, living in harmony with nature, protection of minority rights, abolishing all forms of discrimination, and most important, its focus on the hopes, concerns, and aspirations of youth as future generations face increasing uncertainty and threats to their livelihood. This is a critical time for SSA actors to meet, to share their concerns, their hopes, their successes, and their failures. It is a critical time for local governments to engage in active dialogue on how to institutionalize collaboration with stakeholders to reinforce the capacity of social and solidarity economy to meet the challenges faced by the cities around the world. So to begin this dialogue, it is my honor to present our participants, our panelists in our distinguished mayor's conversation. I will go through each of them quickly with a short bio, and then we can begin our discussions right away. I'd like to introduce Mayor Clara Brugada, Mayor of Iztapalapa, City of Mexico. She is an economist, a feminist. From a young age, she has worked for the transformation of Mexico City. She has been a tireless fighter for democracy and a federal and local legislator promoting the expansion and guarantee of social rights of Mexican people. She was elected to the Constituent Assembly of Mexico City, where she served as vice president, promoting a social rights agenda. She's founder and was national and local leader of the Morena Party and the first mayor of Iztapalapa, Mexico City. Next, Isabel Andreoni, substitute mayor of Montevideo, Uruguay, position of special trust since 2010 of the government of Montevideo, Uruguay. She is director of Montevideo Rural, Department of Economic and Productive Development, elected substitute mayor from 2020 to 2025. She works on the design of strategic lines and public policies for family production and food. She directs programs and projects of production, circulation, consumption at the rural and urban level. Next is Oihana Aguirre Goya. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. She has served as city councilor for health and consumers, designing and developing municipal health policies, taking care of inspections of establishments, and managing consumer offices in the city. She was appointed to the council boards for housing, markets, services, building renewal, and president of the local sports institute, and was later assigned counselor for equality, international cooperation, and citizenship to design equality policies and prevent gender violence, where she also developed international cooperation policies and projects and managed policies and projects related to cultural diversity. Today, she serves as counselor and also designing and managing participatory and co-creation processes with citizens, Smart Bilbao is also her ongoing responsibility. Open government, transparency, and strategy of technological modernization to improve services and the quality of life in Bilbao. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Pierre Hermic, who is the mayor of Bordeaux, France, who is Mayor Hermic is a committed activist in civil society organizations and labor unions. He entered politics in 1990. He took part in the creation of Génération Écologie before joining Les Verts in 1998. In 1992, he became regional minister of Aquitaine. 3 years later, he was elected as mayor of Bordeaux. His dynamic municipal campaign and project Bordeaux Respire, Bordeaux Breathes, led to his election as mayor on July 3rd, 2020, becoming the first ecological mayor of the City Council of Bordeaux. He believes social economy plays an important role in elucidating possibilities and in orienting transitions. So much so that 1 year after he was elected, he implemented a proactive policy on the social and solidarity economy. The first SSE collaboration agreement in the country was signed with the Metropole, the department, and the region, among other projects related to SSE. And finally, it is my pleasure to introduce Soham El Wardani, Mayor of Dakar, Senegal. In 1999, she entered politics and actively participated in the Alliance des Forces du Progrès. She became Secretary General of the Mermoz Sacré-Cœur municipality, women's president of the Dakar department, and member of the political bureau. In 2009, she became deputy mayor of Dakar in charge of culture. In 2014, she was elected first deputy mayor and was head of the local executive power from 2017 on. On the 29th of December 2018, she was elected mayor of the city of Dakar, becoming the first female mayor of Senegal's capital city. Let us applaud all our distinguished participants before we begin. Thank you. Please. Sorry, I was muted. I will cut. I would like to share with you the format of this discussion. But before I do, I would like to introduce the general theme that the organizers of GCEP 2021 would like our speakers to address. And the general overarching theme is, what are the actions and strategies that people, governments, groups, societies, and countries should take in order to create a better and more inclusive world? Which key actions should be locally promoted? In order to address this large issue, we will have 3 questions that I will present to each of our speakers, and I will invite each of you to respond. The first question is the following. COVID-19 brought up many challenges to all levels of government, since they have to build back better. The role of local governments has become essential. The role, how do you imagine the co-creation of a path towards a green and inclusive economy with the social and solidarity economy in your city? Does your city collaborate with actors and organizations from the social and solidarity economy in order to achieve this goal? Each of you has 5 minutes to respond to this first question. I will begin with Clara Brugada. You have 5 minutes. Please.
Gracias. Buenos días.
Thank you very much. Good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone who is following us in this global social and economic forum. Iztapalapa is the municipality in Mexico City that is most highly populated, more densely populated, one of the most densely populated areas in the whole country, not only the city. We also have high levels of poverty and marginalized groups. This has been a historical problem for our municipality. And that's why talking about these challenges is so important for us. I do want to be mindful of the time. So I want to specifically address two experiences, two programs that we have created here in Iztapalapa in order to strengthen and rebuild after the COVID pandemic hit, as well as our partnerships with other actors. We created a very important program called From the Field to the City, Del Campo a la Ciudad. Iztapalapa has helped local producers who are not in Iztapalapa, but in the rest of the country, to bring their products directly to be marketed to consumers here in the city by creating networks of prosumers, producers, and consumers. These networks are extremely important for development. And it's not just a few products, but it's also about the distribution of these products. This has helped our local government bring products to at a very accessible price because we are not working with intermediaries. Producers are selling their products directly, giving access to high quality food, healthy and nutritious food, being directly in contact with producers in the fields. This program has had a very positive impact for Iztapalapa, and it is now in the process of being adopted by Mexico City as a whole. We have also promoted urban agriculture. In so densely populated places such as Iztapalapa, this can contribute very significantly. Urban agriculture, urban orchards, urban production can be very important for a city, and that's something that we seek to support. Another important aspect is a social program that we created right in the middle of the pandemic, where lockdown was at its peak, and we needed to solve the food shortage that many people were facing. We didn't want to simply buy food to give out to people because we believe that that would mean buying from a single provider hundreds of thousands of products. And that's why we launched the Mercomuna project to promote the creation of a local market by giving out coupons that were to be exchanged almost as local currency. That's how we envisioned it. We called them Vales Cuitláhuac. Of course, it's not a currency. We're not legally we legally cannot do that, but they are coupons that were given out to people in need, to 200,000 families to be precise. And those coupons could be used in local markets, in local convenience stores. So all throughout the local community, this really helped for the exchange of 500,000 pesos at a local level. So these three programs, I think, have been very important. We saw them then being replicated in other places in Mexico City. I know I don't have time to get into more details, but these are just some ideas of things we have done in Iztapalapa to try to promote development.
Thank you.
I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Clara Brugada. And now representing the mayor of Bilbao, Ojine Aguirre Eguita. Please, you have 5 minutes to answer the first question.
Muchísimas gracias y muy buenas tardes a
Thank you
todos.
very much. Mm, Good morning and good evening to everyone. In Bilbao, of course, COVID-19 brought unprecedented challenges, which is true for the rest of the world, but also locally for our city. And we had to react because we were the front line of defense. It wasn't only a health crisis with great repercussions, but a social and economic crisis. Perhaps our society and economy will not be able to go back to the way things were. COVID-19 came to show us very difficult realities that preceded it, of course. Precarious working conditions, lack of access to healthcare, and now we have to learn all the lessons to try to promote a better society model that promotes social cohesion, resilience, energy transition, social responsibility, and above all, collaboration to create opportunities. The COVID crisis opened up a series of challenges for local governments who, in partnership with social and solidarity economy actors, can promote new scenarios for our economy to be more sustainable and inclusive. The first of these scenarios is strengthening a local community that's more inclusive, where people and their welfare are at the center of programs. For that, we need to guarantee the respect of human and economic rights, prioritize resources and tools that are essential for social protection programs. Neither the pandemic nor the market should leave anyone behind. We have to promote common good and a more inclusive society that shows solidarity for everyone, where human rights are treated as universal. And we also want to promote a new organization that takes care of people, that provides all types of care, including healthcare, with dignity through social co-responsibility of social institutions, government institutions, households. We also need to consider a community in transition, an eco-social transition that promotes sustainable growth and development. And for that, we need to promote energy efficiency, sustainable mobility, water management that's also sustainable, and basically sustainable use of all resources. And finally, creating a model of economy that promotes equality. That means changing the productive sector that redistributes work, that redistributes responsibilities, that redistributes resources, so that we all work towards the common good through the use of circular and direct economy. We want to support and give value to local economic chains, to promote local production and local trade, as well as socially aware consumption. We want to promote social and solidarity economy further, and more specifically, promote economic activities that seek to protect the common good, such as ethical banking, using renewable energies, and other initiatives that promote agroecology and food sovereignty, as well as fair trade, waste management, open technologies, free communication, community technologies. So many action lines need to be implemented for these scenarios to become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now Isabel Andreoni from Montevideo. You have 5 minutes to answer the first question.
Bueno, buenos días, buenas noches, buenas tardes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, wherever you are. The Montevideo city government is distributed in departments. We have 8 mayors in the city, and that includes a rural area, which is actually the largest part of the department and the largest part of the city, concentrating 41% of our country's population. For 32 years, we have implemented a series of policies since the Frente Amplio first won in Uruguay and continues to govern Montevideo. The ABC plan was promoted to fight against the impact of the pandemic, and the main goal has been twofold: to promote healthy food and nutrition, and second of all, job creation. So how can our city's government promote these two main goals? What the current pandemic is the result of a crisis of our civilization, and therefore it's very important to continue to promote the policies that we have been promoting in the last 30 years. The goal in terms of the industrial technology of El Cerro, where most infrastructure in the country is created for small industry, agricultural and livestock activities are very important activities in that region. What the Montevideo government has sought is to promote this sector since 1992. It's one of the most important expressions of social and solidarity economy. It shows us the transformation that we have been trying to implement to fight against rampant capitalism. SMEs have been supported, not only to support small entrepreneurs through consultancy and training, but also by giving them funds. Part of the infrastructure of social and solidarity economy is promoting the participation of different actors. I know that I'm forgetting some important things to mention, but what I want to say is that the Montevideo city government has been attempting to mainstream gender, because there will be no social or economic transformation unless we fight against patriarchal systems and unless we promote gender equality. That's a very important cause that the Montevideo city fights for. Local governments, for us, as militants of Frente Amplio, we always say that the local government is the first level of government. It's not the third level of government, but the first one, because we are at the front line. We are in charge of the cultural transformations that will eventually bring new political systems about. And for that, we need to create instruments of social inclusion with a multidisciplinary approach, an interinstitutional approach with social, productive, and technological, as well as educational dimensions. That's all for now. This is obviously a very, very general overview. I mentioned that our policies have been in place for 30 years, so it's very hard to develop that in only 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to reinforce your important statement about the local government being the first level of government and not the third, which is how it is often presented. And now I wish to welcome Monsieur Pierre Humric, who is the mayor of Bordeaux. Monsieur Humric, you have 5 minutes for the first question. Bienvenue.
Je vous remercie de me donner la parole. Je vais essayer de brièvement vous exposer la façon.
Muchas gracias por darme la palabra. Efectivamente, hemos hablado de cómo crear una economía incluyente, más solidaria, que se basa en la colaboración collaboration between actors in order to achieve a very important goal for all of us here in the city of Bordeaux. First and foremost, I would say that the COVID-19 crisis
La question que nous nous posons,
made many challenges visible for us. And the question that we are asking ourselves right now is, will we go back to the way things were before, or do we need to find a way to restart completely in order to think about a new post-COVID world? In this context,
cette liste, elle a été élue.
our government has tried to implement many programs such as Bordeaux Breathes. Since last year, we have tried to promote change, and that implies seeing the city as a laboratory for innovation, for experimentation with new social solutions. We have tried to promote ecological transition and to create new jobs, jobs of the future. The city of Bordeaux is part of a larger metropolis with 27 other municipalities that surrounds it. That's what we call the metropolitan area. And we need to redefine the economic mission of our city. Just like many local government, we have economic development institutions that seek to attract new investors. Here in Bordeaux, we have an organization called Invest in Bordeaux, and we want to create new spaces for social and solidarity economy so that companies can have a positive impact. And when we talk about businesses with a positive impact, I mean especially those that have a lower carbon footprint. We want to avoid the participation of businesses that continue to affect the environment, that are not trying to decrease their carbon use. And of course, in this fight for a better environment, we need businesses to be involved. But for that, businesses need to make a commitment to create a better urban environment for Bordeaux. This is part of a new philosophy and a new development agenda. In the past, the development agenda focused on creating economic opportunity for large-scale companies who only sought to benefit from the community. But now we want to establish a more constructive dialogue with businesses that come to invest in Bordeaux.
aux autres partenaires de cette
We want them to contribute to the positive impact that we have created.
nouvelle dans le
And they could
panorama.
be collaborators based in Bordeaux,
L'animation et l'accompagnement des
following
entreprises
all of the conditions necessary that have been established in the local level. We also need to follow up with the companies. And so we are also following up on the roadmap for economic development in such a way that we can also promote this green transition in a successful way.
à la fois pour défricher les possibles,
So SSC is a priority for us.
mais aussi pour la faire changer
It
d'échelle.
allows us to explore social innovation,
Elle se développe comme
but
étant
also to change the scale economy and for it to properly develop into the future economy.
les acteurs de l'économie sociale.
Therefore, Bordeaux is collaborating with all of the stakeholders in social and solidarity economy. Let's just give me an example. We will have a municipal council tomorrow in the city, and in this event, we are going to vote on subsidies to formalize our collaboration
Demain, je pense,
with the circular economy. So tomorrow's events
Règlement
are
d'intervention
going to host an approval of the municipal government. And in July, we also developed a new regulation
dans ces sociétés coopératives
for
et collectives. C'est
capital
immédiatement
allocation at the regional level, working with cooperatives.
une société coopérative
And that is how
d'autopartage
we started participating in a cooperative
ces startups
community
coopératives
where we share mutually, and these cooperative startups attempt to think about new mobility models.
à nos objectifs d'apaiser la circulation dans Bordeaux.
Shared cars, for example, are also part of our goals to decrease the number of cars and traffic in Bordeaux. And with these car sharing companies, we are also collaborating at the capital level.
Adhère à cette
And
monnaie
we are
locale
currently working at the local level so that the city can also
dans son développement.
join.
Quelques exemples que je souhaitais vous donner pour illustrer mes propos. Je vous remercie.
These are also efforts in favor of development.
Very inspirational.
Okay, thank you very much.
Link between social solidarity economy and the circular economy.
Is
We will watch the evolution of the SSE in Bordeaux under your leadership very closely. And finally, for the first round, it's a pleasure, an honor to present Soham El Wardini for the 5 minutes for your first question, please. Madame Wardini, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, merci. Bonjour à tout le monde.
good morning. Good morning, everyone. I am here from Senegal. We are crossing the Atlantic Ocean, of course, for my participation. So I will talk about the local level. We have implemented many progressive and complementary mechanisms that contribute to improve the community's life and to have a more inclusive environment. And this requires mechanisms to relieve poverty through the support to many activities that also guarantee the empowerment of women. And this mechanism responds to a social intention. We have developed a municipal development fund. We are shifting strategic paradigms in order to do this.
à travers un mécanisme d'encadrement et de financement des projets.
And all of the income generating mechanisms are also going through social and solidarity companies. All of this is possible due to follow-up and volunteering as well. We work with volunteers in the creation process for the municipality groups. And these efforts are only possible through programs that support the green economy. In Dakar, we fully support the green economy, and we have an urban approach to support the work of youth and cultural associations. Finally, with the creation of the House of the Child and Women, we have perfected this mechanism to meet the needs of Dakar's inhabitants. The development of the city of Dakar's programs are happening because of the new law for social and solidarity economy, which will surely allow us to create new projects in the future. Although COVID-19 has not greatly affected African cities, our government's resilience has been put to the test because this situation
un plan de soutien à la résilience
presented
des
several different challenges.
pour supporter
In the first place,
l'impact du COVID-19.
we must safeguard the social and solidarity economy's resilience
Prenant en compte la
in order
vulnérabilité
to fight COVID-19.
de l'économie sociale et solidaire pour leur permettre d'assurer leur viabilité.
In the city of Dakar, we also must ensure that all of these initiatives are viable.
Sur un plan de
We have reactivation plans and recovery plans for SSC in the mid and long term. And we wish for this project to be a large scale project. So all of these companies in the SSE area are going to act to promote resilience within the community
Le deuxième défi, c'est
through
le défi
small micro companies as well.
social pour les
The second challenge is to define a legal framework for social companies in order to restructure them.
élaborer et mettre en œuvre le plan de développement local de l'économie sociale et
It
solidaire.
is also important to create and implement the local plan for SSC in the city of Dakar. The third challenge is to facilitate access to public markets and financial resources for the organizations in the social and solidarity economy, and direct access to bids for social and solidarity economy companies. And all of this must be done in accordance with the agreement between the city and the banks, financial institutions. And all of this needed to be done during a pandemic in order to help the companies. The city of Dakar also responded to the call to solidarity by delivering 100 million francs to the Ministry of Health. And we made a donation to the 4 biggest Dakar hospitals in order to respond to the COVID-19 crisis.
Par anticipation à une éventuelle rentrée scolaire.
56 colleges and high schools in Dakar were completely sanitized before the children and youth went back to school. All of the administrative institutions were also cleaned regularly, as well as cultural institutions. Finally, there was a reactivation of companies focused on social innovation and culture in general. So there was a direct request for masks that were handmade to be delivered to the population, for example. These are examples of the actions that we have implemented.
And this time, each speaker has 4 minutes to reply, 4 minutes. The question is the following. With regard to the previous question, communities have been extremely or seriously affected by the consequences of the pandemic. The social and solidarity economy keeps proving both its ability to recover when facing unprecedented challenges, as well as its capacity to find innovative solutions to the growing inequality of income in communities. What are the measures undertaken by your city to strengthen this capacity of the social and solidarity economy? 4 minutes, please. First to Clara Brugada.
Claro que sí. Gracias, pues.
Of course. Okay, thank you.
Quiero decir que desde
Well, firstly, I would like to say that in the Iztapalapa mayorship, one of the fundamental tasks that we've had has been to strengthen, create, and develop, as well as train
redes de comercio justo
members of trade network cooperatives so that they can get out of the crisis. And this, the main intention of this sector is to have economic advancement based on solidarity and not individual competition alone. Therefore, what the mayorship did during the pandemic, during this crisis, was to hire cooperatives to buy their products, and this would allow them to continue having a livelihood. So we bought masks, we bought overalls, We bought everything that suddenly became an urgent necessity. So these products that were so necessary for the mayorship to fight the pandemic. So we provided all of these products that were essential, and we opened this new possibility with the cooperatives. It was such a difficult time because factories were shut down and we did not have access to great amounts of products like these. So the businesses that opened their doors and started and continued to work were actually cooperatives. So this was very important. And despite shutdowns, they continued. And since the pandemic began, we created neighborhood trade networks. So through Zoom and new technologies, we were able to train people on tax matters, managing, and we have been providing training to these small businesses. We are promoting the training and support for small businesses mainly, and also training to create cooperatives. As I was saying, it is not easy to build these cooperatives amongst the crisis. However, what is important is to realize that we cannot move forward, we cannot make progress individually. It is only possible as a joint effort from the neighborhoods, communities, and cooperatives. Besides the Mercomuna program, which is the one that I just mentioned, it is also worth pointing out that together with the city government and the federal government, at the toughest time of the pandemic, we made it possible for the population in the territories of Iztapalapa to have access to credit, micro loans, or direct support from government, direct financial support from the government. So as we know, for municipal governments, this is the most important part to implement these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we will go next for 4 minutes to Ohiana Aguirre Goita, please, from Bilbao. 4 minutes for the second question.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. Well, from Bilbao, we had an increase in poverty and social exclusion, and we would like to add an increase in previously existing inequality during the pandemic, because it has increased the gap at local level and international level. It is the responsibility of the institutions to reduce inequality, but also to contribute to the creation of communities that are more equal. So we must have measures to guarantee basic resources for people's livelihood, universal access to protection services, education, health, inclusion, and also having a minimum income, which is a basic characteristic of the Euskari territory. We also have exclusion for vulnerable populations who do not have access to housing, energy, power, or mobility. And so our measures aim to include and to be sustainable. Measures to facilitate and promote production markets and local consumption. Measures that also mean tax progressions, so impact of several different types of taxes for the development of local economic activities from SMEs and SSE initiatives. We also have the measures for promotion of solid values and inclusion, as well as promotion for social participation, especially where there are more vulnerable populations. In the mayorship of Bilbao and in our mandate for the mayorship in 2019-2020, we created a strategic plan for SSE, which aims to promote transformational, which means to promote the transformational economy. So to have development at the economic level in Bilbao, our city, and to build from a place of collaboration between the government, universities, companies, civil society, the government of Bilbao, and of course, companies and SSE networks. The results of this plan, which we have been working on, we have created a poll, which is called the Econa poll. So it is made up of all of the stakeholders in SSE, and it is a co-designed project. This initiative stemmed from the vision that SSE should become a public policy, and it should be the priority for the social and economic development for Bilbao, Vizcaya, and the territory. And it should be based on the collaboration between the government, universities, companies, civil society, promoted by the mayorship and the networks of SSE. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Isabel Adrioni, please, 4 minutes for the second question.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Bueno, fundamentalmente.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, fundamentally, during this time, the government of Montevideo has worked specifically in all of the territorial processes. So we mean the construction of connections and links where we articulate 350 popular organizations in Montevideo, which was the way in which the population responded to the loss of work and the way in which they ensured their food and their livelihood. So what we have been trying to do, and we are working very hard with the social groups and the municipalities, is to develop these territorial nodes where we coordinate the work of the populational groups with clinics, for example, schools, and groups of neighbors who are organized because of a specific purpose. So we are also specifically working on food sovereignty, which is extremely important to us. We focus on the design of products that have been used, such as masks and plastic shields, for example. They have been freely distributed thanks to all of the projects that I mentioned before, and we created new alternatives for the distribution. Finally, I would also like to point out that we have an open school for agroecology, which is an effort by more than 10 institutions and a network of producers at the national level, which aims to train general citizenship and producers in particular. And this program has existed for around 20 years in Montevideo. It's an agricultural program for small areas in the urban and suburban areas of Montevideo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now Mayor Hormick, please, from Bordeaux, 4 minutes for the second question. S'il vous plaît.
Voilà. Il faut que je rappelle la question. Oui, voilà. Donc,
Voilà.
Okay.
La deuxième question.
The second question, please.
voilà. Alors, pour répondre à la
Okay,
question,
so to answer the second question, we must specify that in Bordeaux we have responded to the climate urgency, of course, and in this case there was also a different type of urgency.
d'être à l'écoute et d'apporter des réponses.
And this urgency also forced us to listen and to respond to the world of social and solidarity economy, and in the world of conventional companies, there was a great impact of the crisis. So our response could be very diverse. It could be a traditional response, but of course the sector was greatly affected. And this is the reason why at the municipality level, we have had an exceptional support fund of 1 million euros, which has been channeled to the associations which had financial difficulties. And in the same line, we also created the Bordeaux Metropolis, which is a new mechanism for the companies who have considered social and solidarity economy. As you said, SSE is also committed to the fight against inequality, and this is also an area where we have a strategy. Particularly, we work with the assurance of employment and housing.
Alors, pour être concret, là aussi, je dirais que nous sommes actuellement
And with Mr. Stefan Prefer, we are now working in the analysis of new candidates for our neighborhoods, where we can start an experiment at the national level with these new programs and to have long-term employment to avoid unemployment as well. So that is why we are doing this at the national level. We aim to create quality jobs and provide social benefits for people who have not enjoyed a job or have lost their job now for 2 years.
que l'État faudra bien.
So we're providing government support because the state definitely needs to contribute to that. We also aim to innovate.
Qui d'ailleurs sont souvent
And
liés
so we are making a call for all of those who might be interested in participating. And these actions are also connected to environmental activities. We are seeing very quick results, and there are projects that fight against inequalities, gender inequality, and discrimination related to age as well.
nous avons obtenu aussi d'être, nous
So
avions
besides the pilot project that we're doing, we also explored these options because we requested the federal government to have our region be one of the regions that could experiment with these new initiatives. And the state said 3 weeks ago that it was authorized. So we can also experiment with income in Bordeaux. And
solidaires.
besides those pilot projects, I would also like to talk about the solidarity neighborhoods, which follow the principles. We are working with an organization in Bordeaux. This is a system that will allow us to separate.
C'est-à-dire, si vous voulez avoir un immeuble sur Bordeaux et en être propriétaire, vous passez par
It
ce qui
will allow us to separate, for example, the owner of a building from other areas. So you need to have, for example,
vous serez propriétaire des murs.
low income over a very long time. And so the person who owns the building owns the structure, and the price of rent is going to go down from 25 to 30% in the short term. This system is useful because it promotes affordable housing.
Dans la mesure où après, quand
There
vous
was a lack of access to housing. And so that's why it's important to have programs like this. And if the building is sold, they have to go through a solidarity economy system, which is not going to allow them to speculate on acquisition. So this is what I wanted to explain.
Madame El-Wardini, please, 4 minutes for the second question. S'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup. Comme je l'ai déjà annoncé, donc la ville de Dakar, quand la pandémie est arrivée,
Thank you very much. As I was saying, in the city of Dakar, during the pandemic, we participated in the national solidarity efforts with 100 million, as I mentioned before.
les gens ne sortaient plus la nuit, quelques-uns n'allaient même pas au travail. On a été obligé d'accompagner les gens en
So
les
due to the fact that there was a curfew, we needed to accompany people at night. For example, there was a program for women. There were 3,500 beneficiaries for the curfew. And we were able to find 500 direct jobs for the people who needed them the most. Regarding the green economy,
qui nous ont accompagnés dans le rétablissement de la vie.
we encourage
Parlez donc de l'aide
young
financière
people
apportée aux hôpitaux.
to join us in our activities. So we also provided support to hospitals. As you know, this is extremely important in order to promote the local economy. We decided not to import masks, surgical masks. So we helped seamstresses produce new masks for the population themselves. So of course we were in need of high quality masks for the pandemic, and it was thanks to a startup that we could help young entrepreneurs to manufacture these masks. More than 1 million masks were manufactured in Dakar. In order to carry out these activities, we also prioritized companies that were created through the fund. We also provided small loans and credits to women so that they could have an income producing activity. This was done when the pandemic hit and it was widespread, so we needed to help the population. The city of Dakar had bought staples or basic food items such as rice, for example, to distribute to the population because many people did not have a job anymore. So we started working with entrepreneurs. And together with startups, we launched a visibility campaign in order to help small companies that were about to disappear due to the crisis. So this is what we did with incubators to help with the population in our activities.
Question for our distinguished guests, and again with 4 minutes allocated for your answers. The final question is, could difficult times represent opportunities to strengthen collaboration with actors and organizations in the social and solidarity economy? How could this happen? Clara Brugada, we'll begin with you. 4 minutes, please.
Bien, bueno, por supuesto que
Well,
es el mejor momento para
of course, I believe that this is the best time to develop social and solidarity economy.
en la que estamos con una situación, pensamos ya de
In this stage where we think we are about to leave this pandemic, I think, looking forward to the economic recovery, this is our priority. So I believe that strengthening social policies from the bottom up, so starting at the municipal level and finishing with also companies, social solidarity companies, this should be a priority. One of the strategic pillars that we have is to carry out events for social solidarity economy initiatives. We have fairs that allow us to activate the economy from the bottom up. So we carry out events where people can promote what they do. We also have partnerships with universities, companies, all levels of government and institutions to implement projects that will help strengthen the work of social and solidarity economy. Another initiative that we wish to implement is to ruralize, as we call it, Mexico City. This means that we want to launch green projects. In this case, it could be home production of food items, so vegetables, herbs, providing those vegetables and herbs to more than 50,000 families. This will be a great priority for us. Another very important strategy is the production of food under the right for food sovereignty and livelihood. So we are producing organic eggs in the urban area. There will be 40,000 families and mainly women who are going to be in charge of organic egg production at their homes for self-consumption and for sale in their own neighborhoods. We are also going to continue with the Mercomuna program, which I mentioned before. These are coupons that can be exchanged in the local stores, and it favored more than 17,000 shops and neighborhoods. So local shops will continue with this initiative, and the Mercomuna program was created during the pandemic. However, it doesn't mean that it will finish after it ends, but it is going to continue as one of the biggest programs that our district has had over its long history. So there are many important initiatives. We also have a platform for society where cooperatives can advertise their products and present new initiatives. So this helps them make progress with the sale of the products that they are creating themselves. I think that governments should also allocate part of their budget to buy from cooperatives as a principle, as a principle to help this type of economy grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oyana Arige Goitia, please. 4 minutes for the last question.
Muchísimas gracias. Bueno, en el caso de
Thank you
Bilbao,
very much. Well, in the case of Bilbao, we think that the challenges that we face, like the construction of more equal and inclusive societies, demands that the cooperation practices be strengthened among public, social, and economic stakeholders. So we believe that it is important to highlight the importance of promoting more open and reliable government structures to create public policies that are capable of integrating all stakeholders. As part of the public-private partnership, the promoter entities are engaged with the promotion of programs and concrete actions in Bilbao to make a significant contribution to growth and consolidation as of social solidarity economy. Definitely, our value proposition is cross-cutting and can apply to all sectors and all types of productive activities and services. In this case, we can establish a proposal that will be a way to include people who have been victims of discrimination or who are vulnerable, and this is in service to society. So there are monetized models. However, we have the opportunity to be a reference for the Basque Country. Governments and international institutions are incorporating this in their political agendas and as a development driver for all territories. And we wish to do this in collaboration with all stakeholders who have worked with us since the beginning to pave the way to achieve this ultimate goal. We did not start from scratch and we are not alone. So there are more than 30 entities and 100 companies behind this project. Therefore, it is an urgent and innovative proposal in the post-pandemic area for the reconstruction of the economy, the environment, and society. So it's not only about recovering economic growth, and Econopolo, which I mentioned before in my participation, is an element that brings everything that I just mentioned together. It is located in one of the most vulnerable neighborhoods in the city, which is San Francisco, and it is a platform to drive social and solidarity economy and other economies that are similar in their philosophy. this is a system where in an open and articulated way, networks, organizations, public administration, companies, social agents, entrepreneurs, unemployed people, neighbors in general, and students can meet and look for a shared way of exploring new perspectives and horizons for social and solidarity economy. We are talking specifically about development of relationships and initiatives with collaborative governance, and that this will also be beneficial for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Isabel Adriani, please, 4 minutes.
Bien, perfecto. Bueno, yo creo que estamos en una buena oportunidad para
Okay, I believe that this is a great opportunity to put production and reproduction of life at our core. So bringing every day to focus once again, highlighting the importance of what happens every day, the work that we do, the food that we eat, the way that we live together as a society, enjoying our rights and exercising our rights as well. So we are at a point where we can contribute to that through the social economy. And we can never overlook, under no circumstance, the promotion of health and nature, because without the planet and without health, no economy at all will be possible. Therefore, this must be one of the main priorities. The way to produce production systems in general, conventional production systems which are depleting our planet must be abandoned. So this is a very important cause for us. We also need to make other types of economies visible. There's no one kind of economy. Of course, we have an hegemony, let's say, which they call the only economy, as if it were just one vision without considering the multi-dimensional nature and the encounter of many different cultures. But there are other economies that must be considered. So it is at this time when we can move forward with all the territorial processes, with all of the other economies and strategies created by workers and people to continue living and developing as humans. So this is a very important time for governments to work to make these other economies visible through events, markets, local initiatives, and several different actions. So this is a time to keep supporting all of the organizations, which in the case of Montevideo, allow us to work at the production level, such as the National Agroecology Network for Agroecology. It didn't exist 20 years ago, but we have Community Garden Network, which was also built over the last 20 years and provides an excellent tool to provide food for all of the inhabitants of the urban area and the neighboring communities as well. Social and solidarity networks have gained strength over the last 15 years, and these are all tools that governments must promote in order to also create more collective instruments. So this is the challenge that we have right now. We must change our values, principles, practices, and bring it all together in this under this concept. Thank you.
Thank you, indeed. We must. Now, Monsieur Pierre Urmic, s'il vous plaît, 4 minutes. Excuse me, I slipped into French. 4 minutes for the final question, please. Monsieur Urmic.
Alors, partant de crise, il nous faut unir vraiment et sérieusement nos forces.
When we talk about a crisis, we need to join our efforts. This is why we invest in this social and solidarity environment. This must be done at all levels, from the local to the global level. Before talking about partnerships, between the private and public sector and SSE. In Bordeaux, we have a very unique and original agreement between four collective groups in our territory. It's an agreement between the city of Bordeaux, our department of Gironde, and then the neighboring areas. So this is a multi-partnership agreement in order to develop social and solidarity economy. And beyond the current situation of each group, we must create an ecosystem, if we wish to promote absolute change and beyond the limits of our city. This is also one of the goals stated at GCEF, so we must use our resources to mobilize our projects and all of the actors, stakeholders of social and solidarity economy.
Respectueux des ressources
Must
humaines
highlight the circular economy that helps build respectful, friendly systems
nous
that
pilotons
protect the environment. We have worked with the French-speaking mayor group in order to create
commun
a hub and an observatory
pour vous citer un
to
projet
have common benchmarks
du foncier parce que
and talk about training in a continuous way.
un foncier au
We
projet
also talked about real estate. There are many housing
sociale et solidaire
issues. For example, there's a project called ISECOS,
et ainsi créer une centaine
which
d'emplois verts.
is an effort focused on the creation of a village and more than 100 green jobs.
Lancer un appel à manifestation d'intérêt ouvert aux acteurs de l'économie sociale et solidaire.
And we have also made a call
Solutions en matière d'économie
to
circulaire
all stakeholders in the social and solidarity economy
sont
to produce circular products, which means that they will use technologies that will not deplete resources.
Merci.
4 minutes.
Merci.
Dernière question.
La ville de Dakar, elle développe une stratégie communautaire de développement.
Okay,
local.
in the city of Dakar, we have developed a local development strategy for social and solidarity economy in the territorial communities, and we wish to create synergy among the stakeholders.
De développer une synergie entre les détenteurs d'enjeux
The strategy is based on two pillars.
de l'économie sociale et solidaire. Le premier axe,
And the main goal is to have organization for a social and solidarity economy. The first pillar is to have more links between the communities.
pour une appropriation des
There
politiques,
is a participation initiative
principalement les organisations de l'économie sociale et solidaire.
to promote the organization of SSE with the people who have all of the elements at their disposal. Accessibility to credit with low interest rates should also be a part of the initiative.
Et permet la pérennisation des entreprises qui seront effectivement.
And a follow-up structure that will allow for permanence of the companies that have been created.
à travers le réseau des acteurs et
We are
collectivités
also working on collaboration with stakeholders and territorial groups,
qui a appuyé la stratégie, faciliter la mise en relation avec les acteurs de l'économie sociale et solidaire dans
and
les
also in this strategy, we wish to make the relationship with all of the stakeholders in SSE much stronger through an influence in public policies. It must be said that together with the stakeholders of SSE, we have prioritized the co-construction approach
Le collectif
with 19 territorial groups,
des ateliers artisanaux, les
with
entreprises,
neighborhoods,
les groupements d'intérêt
with local workshops, social entrepreneurs, cooperatives, social companies.
Cette approche
and local product manufacturers, they're also very important. So this approach is going to be further elaborated and integrated to the local development plan, the Dakar area to promote sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been in contact with yeah, there is a lot of interference in the background. Merci beaucoup, gracias, muchas gracias, thank you. We are at 12 noon, my time, local time in Canada, but before we say goodbye, avant qu'on dit adieu, we unfortunately do not have time for questions. There were some questions that came in on the chat. I apologize to those who posed them, but the administrators have told me that we can, if you like, the 5 participants, 5 representatives from the different cities we have been listening to. If you would like to make any concluding remarks, you have 1 minute. Can I go down the same order and give each of you 1 minute for a concluding statement? Clara Brugada, and if 1 minute for a concluding statement.
Sí. Lo más importante es la visión
What's
que
most
puede
important is the vision that governments may have. This is a transformational vision that we require to strengthen popular economies, to strengthen the SSE projects that already exist. This is extremely important because it needs to be translated and visualized in public budgets and social policies that will help us change the world. This means that we believe in bottom-up initiatives and economies. We believe in the potential of our people to drive their own economic transformation, and we believe on democratic and transformational governments. So we need to allocate all resources available to help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Oyan Aguirre Goitia, please, from Bilbao. 1 minute concluding comments.
Muy bien, muchísimas gracias. La economía social y solidaria.
Thank you very much. Well, social and solidarity economy fits perfectly with the 17 SDGs and the UN 2030 agenda. And they're also aligned with our mission here in the Bilbao Mayorship. We want to be a reference worldwide for urban development. We have shared values, and these are also 17 values that we have in our value letter at Bilbao. It has been written by the citizenship of Bilbao. They decided in commitment, trust, coexistence, creativity, diversity, inclusion, effort, honesty, identity, gender equality, inclusion, social justice, participation, respect to human rights, health, solidarity, environmental sustainability. And we believe that over the last few years, we have been successful in the development of several different types of strategies, paying close attention to emerging sectors. And so SSE is present in all areas of life: finance, energy, commerce, health. And SSE should be a real alternative for society. Therefore, it needs to be widespread and reach its full potential. This was central in the GCEF 2018, which was hosted in our city. We identified all of the challenges that needed to be addressed. And to conclude, we talked about working for the people, for their health, their safety, for quality employment and a sustainable economy with a future vision. So this should also always be the priority for the social and solidarity economy. This is the way that we have paved here, and we are sure that we will be able to shift the social and economic paradigm from a local level. So thank you very much to the organizations, GCEF, for making this debate possible, and because it allows for an exchange of perspectives between several different stakeholders, which is essential to continue moving forward with our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Isabel Adriani, concluding remarks,
Eh,
please.
Tomando el concepto de que la economía es
Well,
una
based on the concept that the economy is a social construct and that society is an economic construct, I believe that from a public policy perspective, we should use these tools, and these tools should be used to deconstruct the dominant system and to construct new tools for the creation of a new economic system, which is indeed possible. Therefore, as political stakeholders, we must keep our eyes and our ears open to the territories. Be very to pay close attention because the answers can be found there. The answers provided by the territories and the citizens based on their culture will be the source of alternatives to create a new world, which, as we should mention one more time, is indeed possible.
Muchas gracias. Monsieur Pierre Urmic, un dernier commentaire, 1 minute. Conclusion.
Your conclusion, please. Well, as my last few words, as a conclusion, I would like to say that I believe that 2022 will be an essential year for a social and solidarity economy. It will be crucial because, as we said a few moments ago, in order to develop this new type of economy, we adopted a UN resolution favoring SSE. And together with the efforts made by ILO, this will be extremely important for ensuring decent employment. And at the beginning of 2022, we will also have a meeting to increase the impact of all of these initiatives with an SSE approach. So we need to create a strong connection between the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations, and our own efforts. To sum up, we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and the recovery from the crisis and caused by COVID-19. So it is the right time to promote SSE and to promote a boundless growth. So we believe that it is fundamental.
1 minute.
Last few words from Madame Soham El-Wabdini. Well, thank you very much. Our mission is to make Dakar a committed city for the development in all areas for all of the population. We believe that the local development with inclusion should always include the entire population. It's also extremely important to promote an economic model based on social and solidarity economy, and we must implement at the local level all of these initiatives to ensure that there is greater equality. This is part of our daily practices, and I would like to thank the GCEF, Mexico City, and all of the participants and speakers at this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. I have found this opening mayor's panel extremely inspiring. Thank you, the 5 distinguished speakers. You have shone a light on dark times. Thank you, GCEF. Thank you, all the organizers in Mexico. I think we all feel energized now for the next 4.5 days, and in some cases, many of you staying awake long hours. This is well worthwhile. We have a lot of work ahead, but I think we are off to a very good start. Thank you very, very much, and I look forward to seeing you all at various sessions. Merci beaucoup, muchas gracias. Have a good day, and we continue our discussions.
En Sociedad Cooperativa Trabajadores de Pascual SCL, somos más que una embotelladora de bebidas de frutas. A través del tiempo, hemos demostrado que es posible la organización laboral para consolidar una empresa sana, que hoy es ejemplo del sistema cooperativista en México. Con bebidas como Boing, Pato Pascual y Lulú, que son nuestros estandartes, nos hemos mantenido en el gusto y preferencia de los consumidores de varias generaciones. Para conformarnos como cooperativa, hubo la necesidad de sensibilizar a todos los trabajadores y optar por un estilo laboral y de vida que nos permitiera mejorar nuestra situación económica, social y cultural. Este sistema ha logrado crear una sinergia de productividad y beneficio colectivo. Ser una empresa como esta es un gran orgullo, un ejemplo de perseverancia y esfuerzo, donde el consumidor es quien se beneficia al tener a su alcance productos nacionales de la mejor calidad. En Cooperativa Pascual estamos conformados por una extraordinaria infraestructura acorde al siglo XXI, en el que trabajamos con equipo y tecnología de vanguardia, lo que nos permite fijar metas a corto y largo plazo basadas en las necesidades del mercado y las preferencias de los consumidores. Contamos con 2 plantas de producción, una en San Juan del Río, Querétaro, y otra en Tizayuca, Hidalgo, en las que elaboramos toda la gama de productos aplicando los más altos estándares de calidad, con la confianza de responder en tiempo y forma a la gran demanda del cada vez más competido mercado de bebidas. En estas plantas producimos más de 40 millones de cajas anuales, con el apoyo de 4 sedes en la Ciudad de México, 30 sucursales y un creciente número de distribuidores autorizados a lo largo del territorio nacional. Comercializamos nuestras ya tradicionales marcas como son Boing, Pato Pascual, Lulú, Néctasis, Agua Purificada, Mexicola y Power Dog, además de la leche Pascual. Nuestras plantas tienen la certificación de sistemas de gestión de calidad ISO 9001-2015 en los procesos de elaboración de bebidas, néctares y pulpas de fruta. Asimismo, contamos con la certificación de FDA en Estados Unidos, lo que nos permite exportar nuestros productos a este país. Para la elaboración de nuestros productos, utilizamos fruta selecta, verificada directamente por nuestra área de control de calidad. Apoyamos el desarrollo y crecimiento del campo nacional, ya que beneficiando a los productores del campo mexicano, en Cooperativa Pascual consumimos más de 20,000 toneladas de frutas al año. Y con la compra directa del azúcar que se requiere para la elaboración de las bebidas que comercializamos, se apoya también a los ingenios azucareros de nuestro país. En una empresa como esta, basamos parte de nuestra fortaleza en la distribución de nuestros productos. Por esto, contamos con una infraestructura de unidades de reparto, asegurando así que nuestras bebidas se puedan disfrutar en cada rincón de México y el extranjero. Para Cooperativa Pascual, el consumidor es lo más importante. Por esto, nuestras decisiones, el personal, las inversiones en tecnología y capacitación se enfocan en satisfacer a los paladares más exigentes. La excelencia de nuestros productos nos ha merecido diversos premios, como el de la excelencia europea, el americano de calidad y reconocimientos internacionales al prestigio comercial de bebidas de marca y calidad. Dentro de la cooperativa tenemos una Fundación Cultural Trabajadores de Pascual y del Arte AC, con un amplio acervo pictórico de importantes artistas. Esta fundación realiza exposiciones por todo el país y apoya diversos proyectos culturales independientes. Por otra parte, contamos con un centro recreativo ubicado en San Juan Teotihuacán para el esparcimiento de los trabajadores y del público en general. Orgullosos de nuestra apuesta por el crecimiento sostenible, el compromiso con el medio ambiente, la creación de empleos y la integración, llevamos nuestras bebidas a cada vez más personas, que son la auténtica base de nuestro futuro. Ser una cooperativa no es solo una figura administrativa, es la orgullosa realidad de una empresa 100% mexicana. Somos lucha, somos calidad, somos la experiencia de más de 80 años en el mercado, somos líderes en la elaboración de bebidas, somos Cooperativa Pascual, calidad que sabe a tradición.